Okay, talking about the songs I picked for my music time capsule project. The thought process was up behind picking these songs was I wanted to pick songs by influential musicians, um, but are actually songs that I've listened to and liked. Um, I guess my parents were probably my biggest musical influence. My dad loved the Beatles, played Beatles music for me, and my mom loved folk music from the '60s and '70s. The first song on my list is "Rave On" by Buddy Holly. When I was a kid, I lived in Lubbock, and the very first piece of music I ever owned was a Buddy Holly cassette tape, greatest hits cassette tape. And "Rave On" was my favorite Buddy Holly song off of that cassette tape, which was actually the first song I picked from my list. The second song I picked is a Beatles song. It's "A Day in the Life" um, from the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album. I picked this song because this album was actually the second piece of music I ever owned. Um, I think, if I remember correctly, it's the very last song on the album, and it's just one of my favorite songs from the album. Love the Beatles. Beatles are an influential band. Again, Buddy Holly, very very influential Beatles influence. Um, and I like both of the songs. Throughout this, I tried to pick songs that were by influential musicians, but were perhaps maybe more obscure. I don't suppose the Beatles have an obscure song that maybe people hadn't heard. I picked the song "Heart Shaped Box" by Nirvana. Now, I was a child of the '90s, so I was around during that time, but I really didn't start listening to music till I was a little older in middle school, and I found Nirvana and loved Nirvana. Another hugely influential band brought back four chord rock back to the forefront of music. Completely changed the scene from glam arena rock to grunge. Heart Shaped Box, not one of their more well known songs. Definitely don't want to pick Smells Like Teen Spirit, but one of my favorite bands and definitely an influential uh, band. I picked the song Gloria and Excelsis Deo, which is really a cover of an older song. But the way Patti Smith did it on her album Horses, which is a fantastic album, it's one of my favorite albums of all time. Um, it's the number one track on the album. Patti Smith is considered is like the godmother of punk. She was one of the very first people, along with the Ramones and the Sex Pistols in the late '70s, to really kind of start the whole punk scene. Um, so she's an influential musician. Uh, really puts her whole heart and soul into her singing, and so she made the list. The very last song I'm going to talk about was kind of a selfish pick because the Toadies are not I guess, they're not the most influential, most famous band. They're actually from Dallas, so nearby. They were really big in the '90s. Their album Rubberneck was made in 1995. It's probably one of my favorite albums. I picked the song Tyler by the Toadies because I used to live in Tyler. Their music is classic '90s alternative rock. A lot of their songs are maybe kind of, I guess the word stalky. The Possum Kingdom was their biggest hit. Maybe some of you know Possum Kingdom, but well, those are my five songs.